You're watching ITV1. Now, London Tonight, and the national news with Trevor McDonald. It's 10:30.
In from the cold, Colonel Gaddafi set for a meeting with Tony Blair. But why is it that the Prime Minister is now so keen to shake hands with a man who for years was branded an evil dictator? Also tonight, a massive car bomb attack in Iraq kills up to 50. Live sex shows with children on the internet, a shocking report. And true cost of obesity, how it's crippling our economy.
On London Tonight, the capital of tomorrow, a city of skyscrapers and homes for our workers, but is the Mayor's vision built on solid ground?
Good evening. At almost any time in the last 20 years, it would have been unthinkable. But today, Britain sent a clear signal that Colonel Gaddafi, Libyan leader and long-time enemy of the West, could soon be shaking hands with Tony Blair. Today at Downing Street, Mr. Blair met the Libyan foreign minister, and together they talked warmly of improving relations between the two countries, about putting Lockerbie behind them, and about investigating the murder of PC Yvonne Fletcher outside the Libyan embassy in London. Foreign Secretary Jack Straw called it historic. Here's our political editor Nick Robinson.
Once he was feared more than Saddam Hussein. Unlike Saddam, he did arm and encourage terrorists who attacked Britain. But unlike Saddam too, he's pledged to stop developing weapons of mass destruction. That's why this was more than just another photo opportunity. Tony Blair's new friend is Colonel Gaddafi's foreign minister. This, another step on the road to Tripoli, and embracing the man himself. Today in Libya, the Italian Prime Minister did just that. And in London, a beaming Jack Straw proclaimed this a historic visit from a country taking a courageous step.
We've always regarded Libya as a good country. We regret the fact that there have been difficulties in the relationship.
Difficulties is a diplomatic word for this, the Lockerbie bombing, the worst terrorist atrocity in British history. And this, the IRA's bomb at Warrington, which killed 2 young boys, made possible thanks to Libyan arms. And this, shots fired from within Libya's London embassy 20 years ago. Shots which claimed the life of WPC Yvonne Fletcher. Her killer is still free. Libya's foreign minister promised cooperation, transparency and honesty. The police simply want to be able to interview the suspects who fled the country under the cover of diplomatic immunity. So why have the Libyans been feted in Whitehall's gilded rooms without that promise? Simple. Weapons of mass destruction. Unlike Iraq, Libya owned up. We have the equipment, the know-how and the scientists, said the man from Tripoli. But we have chosen not to develop the weapons.
Libya's decision should benefit the whole region and make the world a very much safer place.
That's why Tony Blair is ready to risk ridicule for posing with the Colonel's men. Men who until recently wouldn't have been let in the country. WPC Yvonne Fletcher was one amongst many British victims of Libya's regime. In the hope of avoiding more, Tony Blair in effect forgave Colonel Gaddafi today. Few will ever forget. Nick Robinson, ITV News, Central London.
Let's go now to Downing Street to talk to our international editor, Bill Neely. Bill, only recently Libya was part of the axis of evil. Things have moved pretty quickly, haven't they?
With stunning speed, Trevor. An American diplomat is in Tripoli now. I understand more will go there within a month. It'll be even more stunning to see the man in there swap Downing Street for a tent in the Libyan desert with Colonel Gaddafi. Again, I understand there was a letter from Colonel Gaddafi today, an invitation to Mr. Blair. They've already spoken on the telephone. Mr. Blair will go. It's just a question of when. Colonel Gaddafi in the 1980s, as we've heard, chose to confront the West. Now he's embracing the West, but he's doing it from not a position of strength, but a position of weakness. That strategy didn't work. The UN slapped sanctions on Libya. Libya got poorer. Handing over the Lockerbie suspects was the breakthrough, and Britain has now guided Libya gently out into the sunlight. Stunning speed, as you say.
And it's a message for other leaders in the world as well, isn't it, Bill?
Oh, yes. They'll be listening in North Korea, in Iran, in Syria. No coincidence, for example, that Prince Charles is in Iran this week. Britain and America playing good cop, bad cop. As Jack Straw said today, the removal of Saddam Hussein may have eased negotiations with Libya. You bet it did.
Bill Neely, thank you. So, diplomatic progress with Libya, but in Iraq today, another serious setback. A huge car bomb went off outside a police station in a town 25 miles south of Baghdad. The target, Iraqis queuing for jobs as policemen, and therefore seen by the bombers as American collaborators. Up to 50 were killed. From Baghdad, Harry Smith reports.
It was a devastating attack, carried out with only one aim in mind: to kill and injure as many people as possible. Around 500 pounds of explosives packed into a car went off in this crowded town centre, demolishing part of the local police station and shattering this mainly Shiite community. Many of the casualties were out-of-work young men who'd been queuing to join the police force. As some recovered amid the chaos of the local hospital, one described the attack as a cowardly act against innocent civilians. The provincial governor said this could not be the work of Muslims, but outside terrorists. This attack comes just as the process of handing power back to the Iraqis is at a very delicate stage, with no one able to agree just how that goal should be achieved. The United Nations, which pulled out of Baghdad last year after a devastating bomb attack on its offices, has sent a mission to try and broker a deal. But even as they talk, the various factions seem to be growing even further apart. The world has to see this, he shouts, as anti-American slogans spread through the crowd. Whoever carried out this attack, once again, it's America the crowd turns on. Harry Smith, ITV News, Iraq.
So far as we know, no Americans were killed in today's car bombing, but during the invasion of Iraq and since, more than 500 Americans have died. That statistic is widely known, but unseen and unheard, hundreds more have been wounded. This week, cameras were allowed into the medical center where many injured Americans are being treated and where, not surprisingly, opinions on the war are now divided. From Washington, here's Robert Moore.
Push down. First thing I heard was boom. And all of a sudden I looked down at my leg.
All right, 3 more. Bring it on, bring it on.
Many describe themselves as the forgotten soldiers, those who have returned from Iraq alive, but with serious injuries. This is the ward where many of the amputees are treated. A glimpse into the terrible suffering of soldiers who are scarred for life. Sergeant Peter Damon is from Massachusetts.
Like I still feel like I have hands. Yeah. And the pain is like my hands are being crushed in a vice.
Some recount with wry humor how they told their wives.
And the way I told her on the phone was, I got some good news and some bad news. Which one you want first? She said the bad news. I said, I got my legs blown off.
The good news was that he was coming home. Many have been wounded long after Saddam fell from power, the victims of rocket-propelled grenades and roadside bombs. They are now trying to judge if their sacrifice was worthwhile.
Give it a couple of years, and if Iraq sets up a democratic government and they can run it by themselves, then yeah, I guess it's worth it.
Others here admit the experience of war has changed their politics forever.
I was a Republican for quite a few years. I'm going to be incredibly active in the Democratic Party down where I live once I get out.
A generation ago, it was America's Vietnam veterans who were treated at this Washington military hospital. Now it's the turn of casualties from Iraq.
The figure of just over 500 dead is still less than 1% of those killed in the Vietnam War. But with every week that passes, the death toll is rising, and Iraq will remain a key and controversial issue in this election year.
On your way home, then?
The wounded have their own story to tell as they prepare to leave the hospital and head to their hometowns across America. Robert Moore, ITV News, Washington.
The Vietnam War, which Robert Moore mentioned there, is also causing deep difficulties for President Bush over his war record or the lack of it. The White House released pay and service details to try to disprove claims that he shirked his military duties in the Texas National Guard. The allegations are a big boost to the Democrat frontrunner John Kerry, who was decorated for heroism in Vietnam. Now, some other news making the headlines tonight. Detectives in Edinburgh investigating whether a former teacher's past as a convicted sex offender was linked to his brutal death. The dismembered body of Alan Wilson was discovered in a communal garden in the west of the city. Wilson was jailed 4 years ago for abusing 3 boys while working as a history teacher at a local school. Police say that the 29-year-old victim of a fatal shooting in Birmingham was an innocent passerby. The man was shot as 3 armed robbers escaped with money from a building society. A chilling insight into child sex in Britain today has been revealed by the charity Barnardo's. It discovered that children are being sold on the internet by relatives. The charity says modern technology like mobile phones and digital cameras make such crimes impossible to detect and to prevent. Here's our social affairs correspondent Helen Wright.
The anonymity of cyberspace cloaks a shocking trade in child abuse. Today's report reveals children here in the UK are even being advertised or sold for sex in chat rooms or on internet bulletin boards, some by relatives and friends, and no one knows who or where they are. Mary Collins was abused and photographed as a child. She told me it took 30 years to come to terms with. She says it's vital children at risk are found and helped.
It was bad for me. I didn't know where and who were looking at my photographs. The idea that it can be worldwide, and once it's out there you can't get it back. That's the horrible thing.
But new technologies offering instant results can make that task even more difficult. Abusers can use digital cameras to film their victims, perhaps in their own homes, and then send the images straight to the net, keeping abuser and child hidden. The abuse of children is even being broadcast live on the internet, with others paying to watch online. And the shocking truth is only a tiny minority of the children whose images appear on the net are ever identified.
Only in the region of 250 children have ever been identified. The numbers of images that we are monitoring in any given month will well exceed 30, 40, 50,000.
This retired policeman pioneered investigations into child abuse images, but he told me that for busy, cash-strapped forces, identifying the victims is often a low priority.
At the moment, we're just counting these images, and the real kids are being abused, and it's not good enough.
Campaigners believe no single organisation has the money or know-how to identify abuse victims, and they now want international cooperation to find and protect vulnerable children. Helen Wright, ITV News.
There's more to come on the ITV News tonight, including why every single one of us is paying the price for Britain's obesity epidemic. And in our sports report, could this be the goalkeeping blunder of the season? You can find out when we come back. Welcome back. The enormous cost of obesity on the nation's health will be spelt out tomorrow. Doctors will tell us what can be done to reduce the problems it causes. But have you ever thought about the cost to the economy and what can be done about that? Here's our economics editor, Caroline Kerr.
Everyone knows that obesity is a major health problem, but fat is also a financial issue. 1 out of every 5 British adults is medically obese, and the cost to the health service and the economy is soaring. It's estimated that obesity is responsible for more than 18 million sick days each year. It's also the cause of 31,000 premature deaths. And obesity-related illness shortens life by an average of 9 years. Every year it costs the NHS a staggering £500 million. And its knock-on effect is thought to cost the economy more than £2 billion.
By 2010, this figure of a total cost of £2 billion may well have gone over £3 billion. So we're looking at what the Americans anyway have described as almost an epidemic of obesity among younger people. Potentially we may have to start taxing things, so that's the economic solution we've used on alcohol and tobacco, and it may be that we need to look again at sugar and fat taxes in the longer term.
This private hospital about to open in the West Midlands is Britain's first fat hospital. It advocates surgery as a cure.
The cheapest option is a gastric balloon. It's inserted orally and only inflated once it's inside your stomach. Not surprisingly, it acts as an appetite suppressant. It'll set you back by £3,500. At the other end of the scale, you could go for a gastric pacemaker. It'll cost £12,500, but it's a permanent fixture and will control your hunger pangs.
The House surgeon says the NHS should offer these operations, though it would cost an extra £250 million a year.
We need to offer these people who are actually a candidate for surgery, the surgery now. Otherwise, these people will be coming in for treatment of the complications of the obesity, and that costs the society far more.
America is the fattest country on earth, but by 2010 we will be as bad. The question is, can we afford to do nothing about it? Caroline Kerr, ITV News.
Now, is Glenn Hoddle about to return to football management at a club he left 3 years ago? With that and the rest of tonight's sport, here's Felicity Barr.
Trevor, thank you very much indeed. Yes, whether or not Glenn Hoddle will be the next manager of Southampton was the talking point among Saints fans at their Premiership match with Arsenal tonight. And as our sports editor Tim Hewitt now reports, most supporters had a clear message for the ex-England boss. You left us once, so we don't want you back.
Southampton arrived at Arsenal tonight amid swirling rumours about Glenn Hoddle and speculation that this would be Gordon Strachan's last match as manager. Southampton fans were unanimous about Hoddle.
Wasn't good to us and we don't want him back.
Can't forgive him.
Can't forgive him, no.
We don't want him at Southampton under any circumstances.
Before Southampton, Glenn Hoddle had an extraordinary reign as manager of England. First there was the exit from the '98 World Cup. Then there was Eileen Drury, the faith healer Hoddle brought in to help the team. And then the World Cup diary, which lifted the lid on dressing room secrets. And the last straw, controversial comments about the disabled, which cost Hoddle his job. Southampton loved him, until he jumped ship for Spurs.
I was also disappointed that Glenn had chosen to turn his back on the club that gave him the opportunity to resume his career in top-flight management.
Last September, Spurs played Southampton. Hoddle shook hands with his former chairman and then watched what was to be his last match as boss at White Hart Lane. Southampton won, Hoddle was sacked, but now, 5 months later, he may be about to replace Gordon Strachan back at Southampton. Tim Hewitt, ITV News.
And in that game at Highbury, Thierry Henry scored his 100th and 101st Premiership goals as Arsenal beat Southampton 2-0, leaving them 5 points clear of Man United, who play tomorrow. Well, there was action at the other end of the table tonight. Leicester City suffered from an extraordinary goalkeeping blunder in their match against Bolton. Alex Thomas watched the action.
Their team hasn't won for more than 2 months, but the fans still believe their club can avoid relegation from the Premiership. That faith seemed justified when veteran striker Les Ferdinand put Leicester ahead.
Ferdinand follows up.
Then a bizarre equaliser for Bolton. It looked like their free kick had been saved, but the ball somehow got over the line. A closer inspection revealed that Leicester's goalkeeper Ian Walker had made an embarrassing blunder. Not the effect an amateur psychologist allowed to speak to the team yesterday would have been hoping for. In the second half, the home side still looked the more likely to score, but it finished a draw. Bolton failed to jump up to 6th. Leicester stay in the relegation zone. Alex Thomas, ITV News.
So these are the Premiership scores, and as you can see, tonight's other game, a massive boost for struggling Leeds. They beat Wolves 4-1 to lift themselves off the foot of the table, and Wolves go bottom. Elsewhere, the former boss of Wimbledon's famed crazy gang, Joe Kinnear, is back in football. He was today confirmed as the new manager of First Division strugglers Nottingham Forest. Kinnear, who spent 7 years at Wimbledon in the 90s, replaces Paul Hart. Shane Warne returned to cricket after a 12-month drugs ban today, but didn't get the chance to bowl a ball. The best he could manage was a brief net session with Victoria's second 11 before rain stopped play. And Michael Schumacher's understated comments after testing the new Ferrari served as a chilling warning to his F1 rivals. Schumacher, who's aiming for his 5th successive title, simply said, "We're quite happy with the car." And that is tonight's sport. Trevor.
Felicity, thank you. We'll be back in a few minutes with a reminder of all our headlines and a look at the news making the front pages in tomorrow's newspapers. But it's time now to link up again with our ITV colleagues around the country for the news in your area.
Good evening, I'm Keir Simmons. This is London Tonight. Mayor Livingston finally launched his strategic plan for London today. His wide-ranging vision covers issues at the heart of life in the capital, but also looks ahead 30 years at an anticipated massive increase in the city's population. Our political correspondent Simon Harris reports.
Dave Davis manages the fleet of dust carts which clean up the square mile. That makes him a key worker. It's something recognised by his employer, the Corporation of London, which has given him a council flat. But for Dave, married with 3 children, buying his own home seems like an impossible dream.
Well, we've been told to buy my flat, which is 2-bedroom, it would cost around £175,000. That's including any benefit I would be, or discount I'd be entitled to for having lived there for over a year. The mortgage on that, I feel, would be out of my reach anyway.
It's estimated an extra 800,000 people will live in the capital by 2020. That means 30,000 new homes a year, and under the Mayor's strategic plan, half of them must be affordable.
Very often I'd have liked to have said, no, we've got to have 50% on here, but legally I had no right to insist on it. Today, we have that right.
Ken Livingstone's blueprint for the future is based on a belief that London's population explosion is not only inevitable, but essential. But critics question whether the capital really needs to grow quite so big.
That's the concern, you know, that people will migrate into London, and so that will deprive other parts of the country, and at the same time you can actually cause problems for people here.
Some growth is inevitable, but I don't think we should be signing up with a blank cheque to this massively high figure.
Another of the Mayor's big ideas is to make the most of available space by backing skyscrapers. Good news perhaps for the developers of this one unveiled today. It'll be the tallest tower in the city.
I think reaching for the sky is an inherent part of mankind. San Gimignano or the cathedral is all about reaching up towards the sky. The next one will be taller. And the next one, I hope, will be even more beautiful.
Reaching for the sky is a lofty ambition, but for many Londoners, reaching for the first rung on the property ladder is hard enough. In the city, this is Simon Harris for London Tonight.
Transport too was at the heart of the Mayor's plans, and it was revealed today that the first ever research into the effects of overcrowding on trains and platforms is to be carried out. Industry chiefs insist high passenger numbers are a sign of success rather than a cause for concern, but passenger organisations fear it could be a safety and health risk. The Football Association has been criticised by MPs over its handling of plans to build the new Wembley Stadium. A House of Commons report claims the FA only decided to restore athletics to their plans as a device to retain £20 million of funding. The report says the new stadium may not even be used to stage a major athletics event. The threat to endangered species posed by the trade in illegal bushmeat is being debated at London Zoo. Experts say the killing of animals in Africa, some of which end up in shops in the capital, is a threat to many rare animals. Emma Walden reports.
There are areas which are now called empty forests because although they have trees, there is no large mammal left because hunters have gone in, set up camps, shot everything, smoked it on drying racks and then taken it into urban centres to sell.
And some of that bushmeat will be smuggled illegally into London, fuelling a trade which threatens many thousands of endangered animals. These the carcasses of African monkeys found on sale in the capital. Primates are one of the main attractions at London Zoo, but by the time these children are teenagers, many species may have been wiped out, the victims of hunters unaware of just how rare their prey has become.
These are Diana monkeys, which are found in just a small part of West Africa. Hunters are going into the few remaining areas and shooting them. So the focus really is to say, in protected areas, national parks, where there's forest, let's support the government to prevent hunting within those parks. Outside, we need to look at other solutions so that hunters focus on different species.
And whilst the Zoological Society of London develops an action plan for the jungles and savannas of Africa, customs initiatives are underway in the UK to prevent this illegal meat ever reaching the London market.
Millions of tonnes of bushmeat is hunted in Africa every year, and these red river hogs are amongst 84 species identified as being at risk of extinction if the practice doesn't stop.
At London Zoo, this is Emma Walden for London Tonight.
And finally, actor Jude Law launched a campaign today to raise £2.5 million to save the Young Vic Theatre. The Oscar-nominated star is spearheading a drive to rebuild the theatre in Waterloo, which he says first inspired him to try his hand at acting.
When the audience are within 5-10 foot of you, it's almost as if you can feel them breathing and feel them feeling the piece that you're performing, so it's an immediate reaction. And that's particularly clear when it's an audience of young people who haven't necessarily been to the theatre before.
And that's the news in London tonight. Now here's a look at the weather with Robin Lermit.
London weather. Sponsored by Topps Tiles. Brightening homes, whatever the weather.
Hello there. Well, we've got a fairly cloudy night ahead of us. There are some breaks in the cloud, though, and where there are some clear skies, we're going to see temperatures dipping down to around 5 degrees, but that's not particularly significant. It's staying fairly mild, so no problems with any frost to contend with. And we've got a reasonably bright start to the day tomorrow. Perhaps there'll be some overnight mist around, but this is going to be of no great significance. And things are going to brighten as we move towards the afternoon. We're going to see more in the way of sunshine, and temperatures are going to be a touch up on today's. We're looking at a high tomorrow of around 12 degrees. That's 54 in Fahrenheit, and the winds are going to be a little bit lighter as well, so all in all it's going to be feeling really quite pleasant. And the outlook remains reasonably optimistic as well. There's slightly more cloud around on Thursday, but things are brightening up again come Friday and Saturday. Good night to you.
London weather. Sponsored by Topps Tiles.
That's all from us tonight. We're back with bulletins tomorrow during GMTV, starting from 6:30. But now it's back to the ITV News and Trevor McDonald.
Hello again. A reminder of tonight's headlines. The Libyan leader Colonel Gaddafi was welcomed back into the diplomatic community today. Tony Blair has agreed to meet him. A car bomb has gone off near a police station south of Baghdad, killing up to 50 people. And the extent to which paedophiles are using the internet became clear today. Some families are in effect selling their children via the internet, forcing them to perform live sex acts. And now for a look at what's making the headlines in tomorrow morning's newspapers. The Times is dominated by a picture of Robert Atkins, the creator of the controversial Atkins diet. According to a leaked coroner's report, he died clinically obese and suffering from heart problems. Also making the front page, the Conservatives promised to spend more than Labour on the health service. The Express leads with the headline, £10 million ruined my life. The 20-year-old lottery winner Michael Carroll is facing up to 7 years in jail for drug offences and claims his life was ruined by his jackpot win. Also photographed, the I'm a Celebrity winner Kerry McFadden. And The Guardian leads with Peter Mandelson's warning to Labour's Iraq rebels. He claims they are endangering the government's chances of re-election. And that's the news tonight. Over on the ITV News channel now, repercussions of that tragic hit-and-run accident in which Callum Oakford died. We're back, same time tomorrow night, 10:30. But now from the entire team here, good night.
ITV National Weather, sponsored by Powergen.
Hello there. We've got a dry night ahead of us, perhaps the odd spot of rain out to the east, but the main player of tonight's weather is the cloud. Now, there are some breaks in the cloud, most particularly down to the southwest, and it's here that you're going to find some mist patches forming. All of us, though, are going to have a fairly mild night. Temperatures will be dipping no lower than 5 degrees. And it's a fairly cloudy start to the day tomorrow. Bright, too, but there is some fairly significant cloud out to the east, and also some patchy rain dogging these eastern coasts of East Anglia down towards Essex and Kent. The brightness, though, is going to be at its best in sheltered eastern parts of Scotland, and this is going to be reflected in the temperatures too. The temperatures across the board in the United Kingdom tomorrow are between 10 and 12 degrees. 12 degrees is a nice mild 54 degrees in Fahrenheit. Very good night to you. Bye-bye for now.
Positive energy from Powergen.
Next on ITV1, we rejoin Cameron Diaz for the concluding part of There's Something About Mary.